station.
With a personality shaped by being an athlete and a background in mainstream sports media, I found that the stories I was most interested in telling were the ones often overlooked, the ones that might not otherwise be told, the ones that show the intangible and not just the highlight reel. The Sports Council is about highlighting the great, the good, the unique, and everything in between in the Pacific Northwest sports world. I'm Jamie Council. Thanks for joining me.
You're listening to the Sports Council on 1340 ESPN, the Tri-City's leader in sports.
Welcome to the Sports Council. I'm Jamie Council. This weekend, it's the 56th running of the Apple Cup. The show is going on at the Tri-City Raceway, and we're joined by Greg Walden, promoter for the racetrack. Welcome, Greg. It's a big weekend coming up.
Yes, it is. We're quite excited for it, and thanks for having me on.
It's always good to have you, and for those that don't know, the Apple Cup is really the kickoff to racing season in the Northwest.
That's correct, Jamie. This event originated at Yakima Speedway in 1967, has been run 56 consecutive times other than COVID, and then during the COVID years. And then when Yakima Speedway shut down, it seemed like a natural to bring that event here and run it at Tri-City Raceway on the Tri-Oval Half Mile.
It's one of the biggest events on the West Coast. So not just for this area of the Tri-Cities or greater Tri-Cities, but this race is really a staple on the West Coast in racing.
Correct. And at last count, our super late model division for the Bonnie Ag TYM Tractors 125 has 29 cars entered. And we expect to have a great field and a great race. And that is the highest car count of the West Coast so far. So, and of course, last year for both of our signature events, the Apple Cup and the Fall Classic, we had the best car count of on the West Coast, which that ensures fans great racing and the best of the best being here for that. So we're pretty excited for that.
Yeah, people in Tri-Cities don't realize that they're seeing some of the best racing on the West Coast. And the Tri-City Raceway, a really cool story that we've covered on this show before, but bringing it back, it's tough. You mentioned that when the Yakima Valley Speedway shut down, that the Apple Cup moved to the Tri-Cities, and you guys did a lot of work to bring the raceway back and keep it going. What goes into that? Because it's a tough game to play.
It is, and there's so much that goes on behind the scenes that nobody knows about. But we have a great team with just a great team of volunteers, like a Jesse Brown or a Mark the Moose or Jacobs, and there are people that help, like the Pointer family, and our good friend Gilbert, Big Mike. There's a core of 5 or 6 people that are out there. I mean, they stop by every day to do something out there at the track, and we just try to keep it getting better every time. We feel like we're behind, but in reality, it is like you said. We are on time, really, because we've had some great events and some good racing, and put the place back on the map where it belongs.
What different racing classifications do you have, and what can fans expect from each of those classifications?
That's a great question. So starting with a mini stock class, that's a 4-cylinder car that weighs approximately 2,400 pounds. It's built how they used to be built on a stock type chassis, like mainly Mustangs and whatnot from the 80s, the square box body cars. And they're a 4-cylinder. They're limited by their carburetor. They put on great racing, and the drivers are really incredible. And that usually is like a 30 35 lap event, depending on car count. And I think it pays $2,000 to win. So there's some money involved. Then we have a group of racers that's Northwest Vintage Modifieds, and they take a late model type, purposely built race car and put a vintage looking body on it. And they run fantastic. Great group of racers that just race for the love of it. Of course, they race for money too, so they get paid well. And then we have a hobby stock class, which is another entry level. So, and that's like your Camaros, the off the street, where it's a purposely built car, but it's taking a stock chassis. Then we have the Prolate division, which is a purposely built race car that runs different engine combinations and is a lightweight car. It's a pure race car, and that the racing there is incredible. And they're running on a slightly limited tire to keep costs down. But then the move up to that would be super late model, which runs a little better tire, but is another purpose-built car. And it's strict. Those two classes are strictly race car all the way. You have one racing on Saturday, one racing on Sunday, and the Prolates models have put on phenomenal races every time they've been out. And I think we've had them 6, maybe 8 times, but they're very competitive, good drivers, and just proud to have them. So,
what sorts of things should people be aware of if they're planning to come out to the Tri-City Raceway at the Red Mountain Event Center?
Both events, the gates open at 11 with racing at 1 o'clock. We will try to keep that start time true to the point to get it going at 1 and to give you a good 2 to 3 hour program of racing. We can't always control everything. If there happens to be long yellow flags or multiple crashes that take time to clean up, we have a great team that does their best, but sometimes that causes a slight delay. But last year, I think we were done early on one of the days, and then the second one ran long. I forget which one. It's frustrating when it does, but it's live racing. It's a live event, so you cannot predict what's going to happen. So expect the unexpected, but expect great racing, good competition, and a good time, good food, good beverages with some great people that love the sport. So,
Greg, does the name Evan Goetz ring a bell?
Yeah, he's a great up-and-coming racer from Okanagan and Okanagan area, and he's a great talent.
Well, we'll hear from him next on the show. Again, Greg Walden, promoter for the Tri-City Raceway, the 56th running of the Apple Cup this weekend. Greg, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. I appreciate it, and look forward to seeing everybody out there.
So he's Greg Walden and Evan Goetz. When we come back, you're listening to the Sports Council on 1340 ESPN, your Tri-Cities leader in sports.
As Choco Mania ends, we welcome spring with our Easter collection, starting April 7th through Easter Sunday, April 20th. Get yours now and bring in spring the sweet way. While in store, ask about adding a dozen originals for just $9.99. Watch the Krispy Kreme app for great deals. We're also booking spring sports fundraisers or fundraisers for any organization. Ask how your business can win a free dozen originals. That's your local Krispy Kreme, 2805 Dupertail in Richland. Come in with a sweet tooth, leave with a smile.
Inconveniences can happen at, inconvenient times. JRT Mechanical has plumbers and HVAC technicians available 24/7 if an emergency does arise. Or if you feel like your house isn't cooling like it used to, or if you're tired of a hose leaking from last winter's freeze, JRT is an honest, reliable company that's been in the Pacific Northwest for more than 3 decades. Give JRT Mechanical a call at 509-314-4314 or visit jrtmechanical.com.
If you've got a winery, brewery, or dairy, why buy industrial parts and supplies from across the country? Central Industrial Sales is your local source for supplies and equipment for the dairy, food processing, winery, winery, and brewing industries. We specialize in custom fabrication, industrial cleaning equipment, sanitary fittings, valves, pumps, chemicals, and many other supplies. Everything's available through our website, by phone, or by dropping by our office. Call 509-375-4032 or find us at centralindustrialsales.com.
You're listening to Jamie Council on the Sports Council.
Welcome back to the Sports Council on 1340 ESPN, your Tri-Cities leader in sports. We just caught up with Greg Walden, and now we have Evan Goetz, a super late model driver. Evan, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
So it's been fun to watch you at the Tri-City Raceway. How old were you when you had your first race at the Tri-City Raceway?
I want to say 16 years old. I think actually my birthday was a couple of days before the race.
Okay.
So 16.
And now you're 17, and a lot of people might see you as a young driver, but at the Tri-City Raceway, you've seen success. You won the Fall Classic there.
Yep, that's right.
So how do you deal with that, people, seeing you as some kid, even though you have the checks to back it up?
I respect a lot of people in the Northwest, and I feel like people respect me. I feel like a lot of people don't look at me as a kid, I guess. My parents think I'm very, mature for my age. Sometimes I can get out of hand. I will say that. But for the most part, I like to be nice and calm and act as much as an adult as possible.
Well, I think if you're a driver, you get out of hand every once in a while anyways. It just comes with the territory.
Oh yeah.
And who did you learn from? How did you get into it? Because your story is so fun to cover.
Well, my dad bought me a go-kart when I was 7 years old, and I had no idea what it was or anything. My dad raced late models, super late models, street stocks, everything. My grandpa Dave raced. I don't even know what you would call them. I guess they'd be like street stocks now. But yeah, I'm a third generation racer, and I got in a late model when I was 11 years old. And I raced my first pro late model race when I was 13. And I won a pro late when I was 13. And then I jumped in a super when I was 14, and my first ever super late race I won. I went Wenatchee Valley Super Oval, and it just took off from there. And now we're having a great time driving race cars. It doesn't get any much better.
Yeah, I'm looking at your Evan Goetz Racing, and you have the $25,000 check for the win that you had in 2024 in Wenatchee.
Yeah, that was a race that none of us will ever forget. I mean, I wrecked in practice by myself, and we put the car back together. It didn't look very good, but it was real fast, and we'll never ever forget that day.
A memorable day, and got the win to go with it. And you've seen a win at Tri-City Raceway, and before the interview, you're just talking about why it's one of your favorite tracks. Why exactly is the Tri-City Raceway one of your favorite places to put rubber to the pavement?
It's just an exhilarating track all the way around it. It feels like you're going to wreck coming into each corner, but you just have to trust your race car. And if you trust your race car, you'll be fast there. And you just can't mess up. As soon as you mess up, your whole lap is no good. So you might as well just restart. It's really hard to pass there, and it's really rough and abrasive. And those are my favorite tracks. I like tracks where you really got to drive it. I don't like the ones where you just kind of cruise around and, it's all smooth and got extra grip. I like the old style tracks.
You have to have a memory like a goldfish.
Yeah.
And this weekend at the 56th running of the Apple Cup, you are racing in the Pro Late model on Saturday night, and it's going to be a completely new experience, a new car for you, which a lot of people, because this kind of kicks off the racing season in 2025. But tell me about the car you'll be driving.
This is my crew chief and best friend's race car, Trayton Tarr. Without him, we wouldn't even be racing this weekend. I would be over racing dirt bikes in Odessa. But we built this car. His wife actually flipped it over and caught on fire, and we rebuilt it in 2 weeks. And the last time I was on the racetrack was bad fast. and I'm super excited to drive it. I've driven it down the road, and that was it. But I'm really pumped to drive it. I think it's going to be really good, and it's going to be a good experience for me and Trayton.
And you get to know a lot of people on the raceway and then traveling around. And somebody that recognized your name was Gabe Sessler.
Oh, yeah. Me and Gabe, we're buddies.
Yeah, you had mentioned that. We'll hear from him later in the show. So, Evan, we're going to wrap things up. What is going to be the goal for you this weekend? What are you focusing on most heading into the Apple Cup?
I'd say my biggest goal is to represent the Tarfab and Goetz Racing. I think this race car has a chance to win. I think there's a really good chance to win, and I really think that we'll be able to pull it off this weekend. So I'd like to finish off the weekend with the win. Who wouldn't, But my goal is to represent Tarfab and Goetz Racing and just have a good time. It's the biggest part.
We'll see you this weekend, and thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Again, that is Evan Goetz, be racing this weekend at the Apple Cup. When we come back, we'll hear from Gabe Sessler. You're listening to the Sports Council on 1340 ESPN, your Tri-Cities leader in sports.
Inconveniences can happen at, inconvenient times. JRT Mechanical has plumbers and HVAC technicians available 24/7 if an emergency does arise. Or if you feel like your house isn't cooling like it used to, or if you're tired of a hose leaking from last winter's freeze, JRT is an honest, reliable company that's been in the Pacific Northwest for more than 3 decades. Give JRT Mechanical a call at 509-314-4314 or visit jrtmechanical.com.
If you've got a winery, brewery, or dairy, why buy industrial parts and supplies from across the country? Central Industrial Sales is your local source for supplies and equipment for the dairy, food processing, winery, and brewing industries. We specialize in custom fabrication, industrial cleaning equipment, sanitary fittings, valves, pumps, chemicals, and many other supplies. Everything's available through our website, by phone, or by dropping by our office. Call 509-375-4032 or find us at centralindustrialsales.com.
As Chaco Mania ends, we welcome spring with our Easter collection, starting April 7th through Easter Sunday, April 20th. Get yours now and bring in spring the sweet way. While in store, ask about adding a dozen originals for just $9.99. Watch the Krispy Kreme app for great deals. We're also booking spring sports fundraisers or fundraisers for any organization. Ask how your business can win a free dozen originals. That's your local Krispy Kreme, 2805 Dupertail in Richland. Come in with a sweet tooth, leave with a smile.
You're listening to the Sports Council on 1340 ESPN, the Tri-Cities leader in sports.
Welcome back to the Sports Council, talking about the Apple Cup happening this weekend in the Tri-Cities, and we're joined by Gabe Sessler. Gabe, you're actually from Prosser, so this is kind of a homecoming for you.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool experience. I'm excited. Coming back to Tri-Cities is always it's always circled on my calendar as the most exciting races of the year.
So you're from Prosser, but right now you're living in Snohomish on the west side, and this is your second Apple Cup. Why is the Apple Cup so special?
I think it has to do a lot with the prestige of the event. People have won it before. People have ran up front at it before. If you win an Apple Cup, I mean, your name goes on the back of a sweatshirt. People walk around with that. And on top of that, I mean, it's $10,000 to win, right? So that's huge. Last year you had Garrett Evans win it, and he's probably the best late model driver to ever come out of the Northwest, arguably. And so having people like that still running it, being able to compete against those guys is super cool.
And you've been at the Tri-City Raceway, not just last year, but you have a couple more races there. So what makes the Tri-City Raceway so tough to race at for you?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would definitely say the character of it. There's not one corner on the track that's similar to the others. So the way you set up for every corner is a little bit different. You can pass on just about any place on the track. I believe at Fall Classic last year, there was a point in the race where I had passed entering turn 1. I had passed between turn 1 and 2. I had passed on the outside of the dog leg going back to the backstretch. and even passing into turn 3. So the cool thing about Tri-Cities is the track just has so much character. You have to manage your stuff really well to be able to have a shot there at the end. And it's definitely a racer's track. That's what sets people apart. It's not easy by any means.
So it's not an easy track, and you're racing in the late model, and you only have 8 late model starts, so you're fairly new to the class. What have you learned the most? What can people expect from the late model class that you've really had to dive into recently?
I mean, I would say so I'm running the super late model. It's probably way more about tire management than I ever really understood. Way more about tire management, and then making sure in practice you're being diligent and using every bit of your practice to be able to get your car better, make it a little bit faster, just to make it more comfortable in the race, because the better it is in practice, the more comfortable you are going to be in the race, the easier it is to save tires. And then you can push harder than everyone else at the end if you have more tire left. So I would say that's probably what it comes down to. I would say what I've worked on the most is definitely tire management.
So racing in the super late model class, and the Apple Cup will be your first time racing in your new car. Tell me a little bit about your car.
Yeah, so my new car, we got it from California. Used to get raced by Jeremy Doss. It's a 2018 Hamkey with a progressive open motor in it. The only reason I'm even able to do as many races as I am this year is because of my main sponsor, DeBella Exteriors. So they do roofing, siding, windows, bath remodels. I mean, the quality that they have, it's second to none. If you're looking for something, an honest company that's going to come and do quality work for you, I would recommend them 10 times out of 10. The cool thing is, too, it's not just for Tri-Cities, right? I mean, they have offices in Tri-Cities, Spokane, Yakima, Federal Way, Bellingham, Everett, Vancouver, Twin Falls, Boise, Montana, or Missoula. They have offices all over the place. So it's really neat, because not just at Tri-Cities, but any track I go to, for the most part around the Northwest, there's people that from the office that can come out, hang out with us, see the car, and then be a part of it. So it's really neat, and it's a family-owned company, so you get to kind of get that feel too. When they all come out to the track, you get to hang out with everybody, get to know them.
And having good support is certainly important in the sport of racing. DeBella Exteriors, one of your biggest sponsors, as well as on your team. Your girlfriend is also racing in the Apple Cup. What a cool story.
Yeah, so Haley, she's going to be racing the Pro Late model in her new Joe's chassis. Joe's Racing Products started building some new chassis, which is pretty sweet. We're actually testing it right now, and it is fast. So it's going to be pretty cool to see those things grow and kind of work on them more and more. And I mean, I don't think I could have picked a better person who's going to absolutely get everything out of the car than her. So she's going to be exciting to watch. It's pretty cool because her whole team, her family, they all come help me. I bring a bunch of my friends. We go help her. So it's a pretty neat little dynamic.
And you guys don't have to race against one another.
No. So yeah, since I race in the super late model class, she races in the pro late model class, it kind of it separates any kind of competitiveness between us. So we just get to root each other on.
And for this weekend, what is your goal in the Apple Cup?
Well, one thing, I will never go to the track thinking you're not going to win. I wouldn't show up if I didn't think I had a shot to win. That's really what it comes down to. It doesn't really matter to me where I'm at in practice. It doesn't matter to me where I qualify, but I want to be number one at the end of the race. So obviously if we could go out, lead practice, qualify pole, that would be awesome. But our biggest thing is we want to go win the race.
Well, best of luck at the Apple Cup.
Sweet. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Again, that's Gabe Sessler racing in the 56th running of the Apple Cup at the Tri-City Raceway this weekend. You're listening to the Sports Council on 1340 ESPN, your Tri-Cities leader in sports. Well, that'll wrap up this week's show of the Sports Council. Thank you for joining me on 1340 ESPN, your Tri-Cities leader in sports. A reminder, the Sports Council happens 4 times a month, 11:30 a.m. on Thursdays. But you can listen to this show not just over the airwaves at 11:30 on Thursdays, but also on demand at 1340ESPNradio.com via podcast. Wherever you get your podcasts, just search for the Sports Council. And it's also available via YouTube. So lots of ways to listen to the Sports Council and support our local sports community. Until next time, I'm Jamie Council. Now we go back to your originally scheduled Seattle sports programming.